Got classic 80s dance banger at number 24. Boy, I love the beat of this record. I don't care if it's a live drummer or drum machine, as long as it's got a beat to it, and this song's got it. It kind of reminds me a little bit, the beginning of Eddie Murphy's Party All the Time back in 1985. You can play those two songs together. The one that I'm talking about, Party All the Time by Eddie Murphy back in 1985. Remember that one? Boy, that's a little trip down memory lane right there. Oh, Eddie Murphy and Rick James, but they're throwing down on that video. You gotta get down, get on down. And Kim Carnes, boy, she's throwing it down too. Invisible Hands at number 24. She was an elected character of sorts. Number 24, up from number 30 on my fancy playlist. The album is called Cafe Racers, her 8th album. Guess who produced it? Somebody who you would not really associate with dance music, but the guy's a legend. Keith Olsen. Keith Olsen, man, bass player. He was in the group The Music Machine. They had that bang, the guitar, the roaring guitar riffs of Talk Talk back in the winter of '66 and '67. One of the best hard rock records that ever came out. I used to jam on that record when I was a kid. And when I found out that Keith Olsen was in that band, and this was a few years ago, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. The guy was in The Music Machine. He moved on to production. God, he's produced albums. I wrote down the number of albums, platinum albums. He's produced 24 albums that went platinum. Keith Olsen. He's worked with Joe Walsh, Grateful Dead, Loverboy, Starship. That's the tip of the iceberg. He produced. Keith Olsen produced Jesse's Girl by Rick Springfield. The guy was a mover and a shaker behind the scenes. And, oh my goodness. And that was not the first legend that Kim Carnes had worked with. Kim Carnes from Los Angeles, her first album in 1971-72. Wrote down the name of that album. I always forget the name of these names of these albums. Rest on Me. Guess who produced that album? Jimmy Bowen. Now you're probably saying, man, who the hell is Jimmy Bowen? Again, you're talking about these names are not well known to the public, but behind the scenes, boy, they're making things happening. They're making the money. They're making gold just spewing right out to the finals, to the CDs. And Jimmy Bowen. Now, first off, Jimmy Bowen had a hit back in 1957. A Forgotten 45. I'm Sticking With You, a classic rockabilly record, bebop, baby. I mean, imagine driving around in a 1957 Chevy convertible, or just a 57, or just a classic 50s convertible period, and you're listening to the McGuire sisters, Perry Como, Elvis, Chuck Berry, and maybe Etta James, and here comes Jimmy Bowen with that rockabilly record, that mix of pop and rock and roll on those 50s music. And anyway, I'm getting carried away. Well, bottom line is, Jimmy Bowen moved on to production in the 60s. He was hired by Frank Sinatra as a producer for Reprise Records. Jimmy Bowen produced Strangers in the Night by Frank Sinatra. He produced Everybody Wants to Love Somebody Sometime by Dean Martin in 1964. I believe he also produced Houston as well by Dean Martin. Produced hit records by Dean Martin back in the mid-60s and Frank Sinatra. Jimmy Bowen. And so he teams up with Kim Carnes on her first album, Jimmy Bowen. But the first record I remember by Kim Carnes, You're a Part of Me, vaguely remember that from the mid-70s, but her first big hit was More Love. Summer of 1980, she covered the Smokey Robinson record. Substantial hit for Kim Carnes. Then Mistaken Identity came out, and that threw her on the map. She's good as gold. Good as gold. Better than gold. Betty Davis Eyes went to number 1 off that album. Betty Davis Eyes, written by Donna West and Jackie DeShannon. Invisible Hands from Cafe Racers. The song was written by two songwriters, Brian Fairweather and Martin Page. Martin Page came right out at me. Martin Page had a He had a hit. It was not big. It was substantial, somewhat substantial. Back in the winter of 94 and 95, called In the House of Stone and Light. And when I saw that name, Martin Page, listed, credited to writing the record by Kim Carnes, I thought, man, is this the same guy who did the song In the House of Stone and Light? And indeed it was. But, sad to say, as great of a dance record this was, boy, it was kicking too. Just check out the video. I'll put the link of the video along with my video. And only got as high as number 40. That's it on Billboard's Hot 100. But doing substantially better on my fantasy playlist. So I got to give myself a pat on the shoulders for that. Got it up to number 24 on my fantasy playlist. November 20th, 1983. Kim Carnes with Invisible Hands.